uh, I'm borderline exhausted. Whenever I get a new project, uh, it's common for me to work like 12-hour days for like a week at a time, just because it's a blank slate project. I get hella motivated, and at the expense of me not using my off hours to work on my passion project. I'm really good at finding excuses.
Well, it's pretty fun to work on, new projects or whatever. So,
Yeah, I want you to learn F sharp, man. It doesn't even have to be F sharp. It could be any statically typed functional first language at minimum. Because I might be preaching to the choir. But my life is so much easier when I have a stable model to program to statically. It removes a lot of guessing work and a lot of unnecessary troubleshooting when Legos just snap onto to one another. Like it makes programming pleasurable.
yeah, I get that.
That's the
Yeah.
end of my dissertation.
Time for me to learn some Erlang.
I don't think that's statically typed. That's more of a question.
I think it is.
Is it?
I think so. I don't know actually. I know it's. I mean, it's a functional language.
I bought a book on it. That syntax looks crazy. Like I bought a book on it, and I read like I think I read it for like 10 minutes, and I just put it back on the shelf. Surprised you didn't say elixir.
Mm. I don't really want to get anywhere near the. Is that's a Ruby, right?
I
Uh,
think it's heavily inspired by Ruby, but so Elixir sits on top of Erlang. So that's the reason why in Elixir, my understanding is it leans more towards dynamic typing. So that's why I don't think Erlang is statically typed because Elixir is statically typed. Um, that's my understanding.
Dynamic strong typing. Yeah, you're right. Hmm. Go figure.
But I heard it is a paradigm shift.
Yeah, I looked at it a while ago, and the big one for me was that they didn't have strings or something like at the time, but maybe they've changed that.
How do you not have
Uh,
strings?
oh man, what was it? I don't even remember what it was. It was something to do with like strings are actually certain kind of arrays or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was different at the time, but this was years ago, so I might be just um, misstating what I understood to be the case. So, but yeah, I remember string manipulation being a pain. I don't know. I guess I could go. What are all the functional first statically typed languages? F sharp, Haskell.
Idris, F star, Elm,
I looked
um,
at some Elm.
Scala.
Um,
Uh, I think some people argue Kotlin, which I think it has some FP principles, but even Swift has some FP principles. So
yeah,
it's really like, what's your definition of statically typed FP languages? Uh, at what level? Is it just immutability? Is it high, what is it called, high order functions or whatever, where functions are truly first class citizens? Is it pattern matching? Like, what's the definition of a functional programming language that's statically typed?
Yeah.
Because
Um,
you have different degrees.
it almost seems like it'd be better to start with a purely functional language like Haskell, just so that you're forced into the paradigm for a while. The thing I'm worried about F sharp is that I look up tutorials and it's hard for me to tell just what they're caking on top of their C sharp knowledge version of it, or what's actually like, because like I'd really like to go deep into the paradigm and then scale back to the non-functional parts. But again, like I said, it's hard to know what's what sometimes.
Well, I mean, I'll leave it up to you if you ever want to do a 1 hour to 2 hour session. Then we can go through a kata, and I could show you the technique that I've been watching this guy named Pavo take off with. And so he does a live stream like every 2 3 days on his katas, and he's using the specification as a library technique that I shared with him. So he completed his crossword kata, and now he's wrapping up with his bank account kata, in which he's adding event store as a feature for the kata, which isn't really required, but I told him it would be useful. So I was on there yesterday helping him out. It's a so the short answer is it's only at your shell, if you ask me, that you are forced to interrupt more than likely with the OOP paradigm or the object oriented paradigm. And well, that may not be completely true because you're always going to have strings, and string is an object, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
are, well, primitive types are just objects, period, in .NET. So yeah, you're still going to be, for example, in 32.parse, or you're going to be dealing with, the utility methods on the string object. So you're not completely divorced, even within your core domain of the application that you're writing. You're not 100% divorced from object oriented programming just because you're still relying on the .NET API. Um,
Yeah, I heard that as a critique of one day somebody was like, worst part about F sharp is that it's built on a framework made for C sharp. So envy me.
uh, I mean, that's somebody's opinion. I think that's also its strength is with Haskell. There's a lot of yeah. I, I would argue that it would be harder to get the business to buy into Haskell than to get them to buy into .NET,
Oh yeah, yeah, without a
right?
doubt.
Or
Yeah.
to get into F sharp because F sharp still interrupts. F sharp is .NET, even though they don't say it. It's .NET because .NET, if you ask me, was originally intended to be a suite of programming languages that distill down into Missile, and Microsoft Intermediate Language is .NET, regardless of the syntax that you decide to use, aka language.
Well,
Um,
well, dot. I mean, .NET's the runtime, right, or the equivalent of the JVM, right?
yeah. Well, I would say the CLR is, but yeah,
Yeah.
Common Language Runtime.
Yeah. Well, I suppose .NET's the full framework. Uh, it's really not really. I'm tired today. I'm surprised I tweeted something yesterday. I'm surprised you didn't tweet "man up" to me.
No, because I didn't see it. I didn't get any notifications yesterday.
Oh, I had kind of a moment where I got a little I had a cultural clash with something. And I got a little teed off.
What exactly?
Uh, so we discussed something at work yesterday, and we decided, okay, we'll let's just go make a new repo and put it there. And then I got a message in chat, and I gotta I'm talking to the guy about it, but it was I was informed that architectural approval is required before we're supposed to create a new repo.
Yeah, I would have got upset too.
And I mean, I sent back a snarky why, you know, as knowing that the architect would be an audience to it, or one of the architects would be an audience. There's nothing against the architect itself, and honestly, if a company wants that policy, I don't. I mean, that's their choice. I'm fine with that. It's just not a like it's a cultural thing for me. I don't want to be in that type of culture where you
Command
know
and control.
yeah,
Like, there's a
yeah,
difference between building something that's production ready versus building something that's an in-house tool. And I'm not sure what the context of your conversation was. My issue is, please don't dictate how I build an in-house tool to make my life better or easier.
yeah. Well, there's
Like,
that. I mean, but still, I mean, this is something that would be used in the production app, but I don't I don't I, I'm fine too with um and I wouldn't even need to know about this, like just architectural review, where they want to just know what's up and offer any insights or whatever. That's fine. It's the whole approved before context or part of it that really gets me, and I don't care what it is. I don't really want to have to if it's something where it's a kind of technical in nature like this. I don't want to have to seek approval. It's not like I'm adding a new feature or something like that without asking the product owner. And like you can kind of tell the difference about what your domain is as a developer and what you're working on versus um, what the business users what kind of their role is in picking what happens and what doesn't based on business needs. So um, but yeah, I'm totally fine with people like you know exploring it. I'm even fine if they say we really we can't be working on this right now and shutting it down. That's all fine. Those are conversations we can have, and it's reasonable. What I just don't like is the approval before thing. Like if we're on a roll, just let's get exploring, and maybe there's innovations we can roll back in, even if the thing falls flat or if you shut it down or whatever. I have no patience whatsoever for gatekeeping at all on things where it's what I feel like is in my technical domain to control. So
translated, you appreciate uh, some autonomy and being treated as a collaborator versus a order taker, or
yeah,
no?
yeah. I mean, I don't, yeah. I actually really just hate and devalue anything that where I feel like we're wasting time for something that isn't important, and these kind of gatekeeping things are all they do is just add time
Slow
and
things down.
slow things down. Yeah, and I much more value you know I value the flow of things a lot more than I do um, you know
Ceremony.
yeah, and being analytical about things sometimes. Yeah, so I don't know, it's just a cultural thing. I mean, if that is indeed the policy, it's just saying it's just another signal that it's just like they've gone too far into that we're doing the thing the corporate way, where everything has to slow down and you just there's barriers between you delivering value to your end, customer or whatever. And I just don't want to be part of it. I just want to find something new.
Yeah. So like, The Phoenix Project discusses that, where it's obviously it has good intention, but it has the opposite effect, right?
Yeah.
So someone introduced a bug that wreaked havoc in the system and is very expensive to resolve, and they lost some customer trust. And so the sledgehammer came down, where there's significant overhead now to mitigate that risk. But now, even though that was meant to help the business, it's actually reducing the time for a business to adapt to change, to moving requirements, and that's dictated by the customers that are paying money and the customers that are willing to migrate to a competitor's tool because they're able to adapt faster. I mean, they write books about that. Even that book called Accelerate by Jennifer, can't remember her last name. We fell out. I don't think she likes me anymore. She works with Jez Humble. I mean, they have case studies and research papers where like high performing organizations, at least based on her book Accelerate, they they don't do that, right? Because the more barriers you put up, the slower you become. And then they raise the argument of the faster that you uh, the faster that you deliver functionality, um, the higher quality it is. Now I don't know what I just said is butchered, but basically they were making the argument of it's more maintainable when you deliver value at a faster cadence, which is kind of contrary to a lot of companies or organizations because they believe that quality is associated to taking time to meticulously review and go through the proper channels, and have a committee that isn't really coding, but a committee is involved in the work that they're not even actively engaged in, but there's a sign off, and it just halts everything. And where you're driving a car and you're going, 65 miles an hour, you're continually with that steering wheel making adjustment, and you're getting there faster. Whereas, like, and this is probably a poor illustration, but when you have to go through all the ceremony where instead of reacting in real time, you're now reacting once a week to someone that doesn't even isn't even involved in the project, but they just have seniority. It's things just become slower, more frustrating, and quality actually becomes worse because there's now more stuff to review because you bashed it up over a longer period of time. Have you listened? Have you read that book or listened to the audiobook? It,
No.
it explains exactly what you're fuming over right now.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, it's similar to like what happened in my last org when it really pushed me to the edge. Is they implemented this what they call the change advisory board or something. It was basically this group that would meet like once a week to review everything that was going to go into production, and it was in response to a kind of a major outage that wouldn't have been solved with that thing at all. Because I mean, the guy went through the standard process of a database backup and everything, and did maintenance, standard maintenance. The maintenance failed, and then the backup failed.
Yeah.
And restoring, and so they had to find some creative ways to do some things. Um, but I mean, the thing is if I don't know, like, there's no deduction that this would have solved this problem had we had this thing in place, but it was touted as one of the responses to it.
Yeah,
And
that's because
it meant a meeting like every week. Like if you had code going in, you'd have to go to this meeting and describe what it was. Like, to me, it's fine if you want better visibility. Let's just have change notes or whatever, release notes, and have a dev write them up. And articulating in writing what you're doing is probably a good thing.
all right.
Um,
So
but passive.
this is where I bash your organization. All
Well, that
right.
wasn't my organization anymore. But
So one way is relying on one way is manual, right? In which they're manually requiring developers to fill out some funky forms and then have a formal review in front of some tribunal. And that's one way, right? But that's only a report. It's not really measured on actual data. That's someone selling you what they're going to do, what they plan to do, or what they did, which could be bias, right? The other way is the proof is in the pudding, right? So let let's call it quote unquote DevOps, and let's actually measure the response of the system and the market that's relying on your system by changes in behavior. Right. Let's take the standard deviation of transactions that are happening per day or tickets that are happening per day of whatever thing is happening per day. And if it goes above or below by 2x, 3x, that standard or that average or whatever, or the standard deviation, then let's raise a flag as something that's of interest and look at it, right? And also building quality into your system. So instead of having like this gated uh I don't know, whatever type of formal gated ceremony uh to ensure that quality and ensure things are met security wise, quality wise, why not just build that into your CI/CD pipeline? Why not build some bots that participate and try to break the system? And this can be called resilience engineering, aka chaos engineering. But manual intervention is I understand their intent, but they need to rely more on some automation.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't even think it's an automation thing. It's not even really a question of quality. It's literally they want to know every people that pretty much don't have anything to do with implementation and probably aren't going to be the ones problem solving if something does go wrong. They just want to know everything that goes in
Yeah,
and be aware of it and ask questions, stupid questions. Again, waste everybody's freaking time
because
two, 3 hours a week.
they want to appear relevant. I think I said this earlier. If not a conversation with you, a conversation with someone else. How people try to dictate the way you work that have nothing to do with your discipline, just because they're trying to figure out how to be relevant for the business. So they try to impose their opinions
Yeah,
just because they're not relevant. At least not when they used to be.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm just thinking from like a culture perspective, and I probably said this last week or the week before too. That like a high speed startup, someone who just doesn't have time to waste on this bullshit, um, or like I don't know, a company maybe I don't. It's probably hard to find mature companies who don't have this level of kind of disgusting, and I'll use that word, like waste of human life in
Mhm.
gatekeeping and that kind of stuff. I don't know, but yeah, I just like startups are probably the place where it is because they don't have the time for waste. You know, it's got to be we need these features now, and we've got to get them done, um, and whatever it takes, kind of mentality. So because they're just trying to get a handle on what's what their business is going to be. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just I don't know, not going to man up.
How'd you go? I swear, Visual Studio, when you unload a project, it removes that project from your solution. I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm observing right now, and I had to like, how do I include this again? Oh no, it doesn't remove it. It just
Kind of like graze it out.
it didn't like it shows up as a it's hidden from you, and so you have to click the hidden uh, icon on your toolbar for it to show.
Oh, hmm. I
So
never had that happen. It's always just kind of shows up gray to me, and then I just reload it. if I
Yeah,
have to unload for whatever reason.
because I'm trying to figure out how to reduce compilation time with projects that I'm not using right now. Because now it's starting to take like 30, 40 seconds to do a rebuild.
Hmm.
Anyways. Um, this weekend I'll resume work and try to finish off this offline solicitation SMS deep link feature. That's my status. It was the same status as last week.
Have you looked more at the Twilio API then?
Yeah, I already wrote the code. I haven't tested it yet.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we had this conversation last week. Next time I'm building some microservices crap, I'm doing one solution with multiple startup projects. I'm not doing 10 different separate solutions anymore. It it demotivates me. It really does.
Yeah, it's probably only valuable too if you have multiple people working on it. I think like I said, the idea is that this could be split out if it needs to be. Is probably the right mentality for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to say that you enforce decoupling when you have a completely separate solution, which they're sandbox from one another. If you have one solution, even if it's a modular monolith, that still doesn't stop somebody from easily referencing one library to another library that really weren't meant to be referenced or have dependencies on one another.
Yeah, no, that
And
kind of
path of least
happens.
resistance, especially when you're working with other people, it's bound to happen. But like you said, it's just me right now.
Yeah,
So this is something that now I understand the pain, and I could give a dissertation on why this isn't a good maintenance tool, or this isn't maintenance friendly. When being interviewed or when leading a project or when being a subordinate to some other lead.
yeah, and we actually did that within our code base. We had separate things, and eventually, you're right. Somebody did take a reference that wasn't supposed to be taken. Like but the thing is, that got caught though, and it just got cleared out and said, no, this is the path you do that. We had basically like we use this kind of like interop layer or whatever to do cross service communication. So where you would have like an API call or whatnot, we just had like a message bus kind of a thing that would pass in and out. Um, and that's the mechanism we use to have them talk to each other but still keep separate. So uh, but yeah, somebody did do that, but like I said, that's a discipline thing. So I wonder if there's, it'd be kind of cool if you could have a way to document in Visual Studio like this shall never reference this,
You can,
something like that.
you can.
You can say in it like
It's I think it's
an
an
anti-reference.
enterprise. I think it's an enterprise. Um, I haven't tried it myself, but I researched it. I think an enterprise version of Visual Studio, I thought there was a feature where you can specify like a whitelist or a blacklist, one of them, of dependencies that can be referenced.
Sorry. Yeah,
But I mean, who's to stop somebody from going into Visual Studio's options and undoing that?
yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, undoing it, but the thing is that most people won't undo it. Like they just don't have the knowledge that this is not, the architectural uh, direction on the particular
People
library.
will undo it because people will have a deadline. People will have limited knowledge on how to do something successfully, and they will seek the path of least resistance. I've been in shops where acceptance criteria was to have automated tests. I'm a Nazi when it comes to automated tests, right? People literally wrote tests that asserted true. Like they didn't do anything. They just literally had a test name and then assert dot is true true.
Well, it's an automated test.
Like
Passes the
exactly,
AC.
exactly. So like people will they will do whatever they need to do. And so and I had this conversation with I don't think he likes me anymore. Michael Feathers, and you can't rely on people to do the right thing. You can't rely on quote unquote people to be disciplined. There's a reason why society has police to enforce what, well, basically to enforce what people should be disciplined about, but may be lacking. And so
I don't know. Maybe I have a lot more trust in people, but
I
the thing
don't.
is I'm also, but I also have the opinion that it's really easy to fix things usually, too. Like
Depends on
someone
how
goes
soon.
off the rail, and you find something that's not right. You just say, okay, this is off. Let's go correct it next time around. So, but your story about the automated test reminded me of, like, we had in one of our projects we had uh like the AC would never be filled out. It would just have a placeholder in there. So it'd be like given XXX when YYY then ZZZ. And so I think one day I built a page that just said it had XXX on it, and then when you clicked it, it went to YY or ZZZ or something like that. Or when you clicked the YYY, it went to ZZZ. And I'm like, look, I've solved all the AC that we have.
What does AC
So
stand for? Because you're talking about acceptance tests. Like,
yeah, or
actually, you're
sorry,
talking about
acceptance
parking.
criteria. Yeah, yeah.
Well, you guys use SpecFlow? What?
No, that they just when a lot of the people will structure their acceptance criteria using that given when then
Uh,
syntax, but we don't have any formal stuff in it. So otherwise, given XXX, then YYY, then ZZZ or whatever, when YYY.
how's this? How are you getting through this lockdown? People are starting to get frustrated. I think we've entered chapter 3.
I think I've been frustrated again with just the lack of maybe it's a flow thing, but the lack of allowing people to decide how to adjust to this. Like we're in it long enough now where businesses and people should have a pretty good idea of what's kind of their level of safety is, and that kind of thing. Um, but and especially people who live in like the rural areas where I am. Um, but still, they have shit just locked down for no reason. Um,
So you have like 20% unemployment now, and now it's no longer minorities. Like we have, I'm just speaking from the heart. Like we have like uh, middle class white folks that are now experiencing like what it means to stand in line to get food, right? So like now it's serious, and I know the news is very biased, and they tend to focus on extremes, right? But if this is chapter 3 of people now starting to get upset, and now people are going to really consider what they're willing to do to feed their families, since they haven't had money come in and they are waiting on unemployment, and some of them are being rejected for unemployment compensation or relief. I think now we're going to start seeing news stories about more thefts, more home invasions, and I'm not sure if this is going to. There's even talks about a new Cold War with China, which I think is plausible. Make long
Yeah,
story
I
short,
can see that.
make long story short, there's a serious conversation about resources now, and resources, even if resources are not limited and they're the same, but the issue is distribution. People aren't people don't have the same access that they used to have, and as a result, there's going to be a change in behavior in society and individuals. And I'm just curious how that's going to play out. What is the jail system going to look like? What are laws going to look like? Because right now, I feel like as Americans, a lot of our I'm not sure if I'll say a lot of our constitutional rights, but our rights have been like suspended, and I'm not sure how easy it is for for us to get it back. So it's just interesting right now.
Yeah,
At
so
least that's
many people will be writing papers on this for years and years to come. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I haven't lost anyone, and I don't know. But also, too, the chatter I see about it, people who are really, like, oh, we really need to not open things up. Most of them are people that are sitting in comfy remote jobs, like me. You know,
my argument is when people say lockdown and like uh, what's the term that they use? I don't know what the popular term is. Self isolation.
quarantine,
No, self
yeah,
isolation. When they say that, I translate that as hide. And like it's I get into so many arguments with some people where like this really isn't going to go away because you lock yourself in the basement. It's not. It's still waiting outside for you. It's not going to magically disappear. There's going to be one is you're not going to get everybody to do it. So you just need to accept that. Accept it. That this is going to continue to spread because people are going to continue to need to live life, right? They need to continue to get money, feed people, right? So this self isolation that the like our conversation earlier, I understand the intent. It means well, but the application is just flat out wrong. It's how do we adapt to this, not how do we hide from it.
yeah. Well, part of another thing I was reading this week, and I don't remember who wrote it, but the thing was is that part of the reason we needed to do this whole stay at home self isolate thing was entirely just so we don't overflood the healthcare system. That was the concern. Is that if we go out and everyone gets it at once, um, then we're going to flood the healthcare system and we're screwed. And people are going to need ventilators, are going to die bad and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be a lot worse. Well, we're at the point now, I think, that this person was make that like we can see that our healthcare system, we've got more ventilators, we've got more gear, we're more prepared, um, but they're still not like opening up. So the original reason that we did all of this stuff was to make sure that we could shore up the healthcare system. Now that we've kind of shored it up, it's like, uh, what's the plan now? Why are we this isn't a plan to just say, well, we keep just doing it because why? um yeah, people are going to die. It's and I don't want anyone to. Nobody wants it to, but I don't want people to start home invading and committing suicides and all that stuff either. So
Yeah. And so my argument is kind of what you said. Like people are going to die. We need to accept it. And it sounds cold hearted, but people are going to die, right? Now, I'm not sure how many people die from obesity. I'm sure it's a lot. I'm not sure how many people die from smoking long term. I'm sure it's a lot, right? Uh, I'm not sure how many people die from the common flu. I'm sure it's a lot. But we're not fixated on how people die from that. Maybe to your point, maybe because they're not quote unquote flooding the system. Um, it, I listened to the interview that Elon Musk had on Joe Rogan's show, and Elon Musk was saying that people are dying, but right now he feels as if every cause of death is being recorded as coronavirus. So if someone dies because over the past week or so, regardless of the actual cause, they had lack of appetite, they had cold sweats, um, anything. If they had a heart attack, right? He was saying that a lot of these deaths are being for financial gain based on whatever ventures, for lack of a better term, that these health organizations or hospitals have with the state or with the federal government. There's a financial incentive for them to document those deaths as COVID so that they can continue getting either whatever supplies or whatever appropriations, for lack of a better term. I'm not sure how true that is. I just know that we need to adapt and accept that people are going to die, and that's it. And a
Yeah,
lot of people that are dying are people that, again, I don't have any data, but I was under the understanding that a lot of these people that are dying are people that are, yeah, either elderly or people that are just unhealthy, and then they caught this.
yeah,
So
and
it's
there
like,
are exceptions,
okay,
obviously, to that, but that the exceptions are very few and far between, from what I understand. But yeah, it'd be a totally different formula if this is a thing. If this was a virus that hit kids like
well,
that,
now
that would
they're
be
trying to make that
totally
argument.
different. That'd be a totally different ball game. But there is I don't know. I think there's the expectation among all people that you grow old and eventually, yes, you do die. And while we try our best to keep people alive as long as possible and everything, it's gonna happen. But so I mean, if this was I'm burying my son or daughter every other day versus my grandma or mother or grandpa died, it would be a totally different ball game, I think. But I mean, I don't know why it doesn't have the same. It's if you just take everything out of it, unpack it, that sounds cruel. But I think there's the fact that it doesn't feel bad to talk about it that way. Like you don't really feel super bad thinking that people who are old will die because that's just the natural life progression, right? I mean, the real tragedies are the people who are young that are dying, and they do exist. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe this is just another thing that'll end up being a meme, like the boomer thing. It'll be like, we all have to stay inside so the boomers don't die.
I was wondering what you meant by boomer. What? Who's
Yeah,
boomer? Are you talking about baby boomers?
yeah. But I don't know. I mean, actually, in Minnesota, I think they started up elective surgeries again. Um, and that just tells me, well, then is the hospital system still flooded or going to be flooded if you have enough equipment to do elective surgeries again? Why are we all inside?
Yeah. Well, I think in Texas, the Supreme Court uh, forced the release of a lady that opened up her beauty salon against state orders, and it made it to the Supreme Court, and they ordered her to be released from jail.
Yeah, the Texas Supreme Court, right?
Yeah.
I think that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that the governor does have the right to shut down these businesses or something like that too. But I don't know about the jailing part of it. Maybe that was the
Well, a state supreme court, even a state supreme court doesn't trump constitutional rights, right? Like
yeah,
it
nothing. Yeah,
doesn't. Like it just doesn't.
yeah. The problem is the government does have control to regulate commerce, so it's it's really difficult. This is just something just odd. The whole thing is. I want it to be over though.
Uh,
2020 can go to hell.
People are just getting frustrated. It's like, all right, we did what you said. It's been like we've been doing it for like
2 months.
yeah, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We are getting hungry now. Our bank account is depleting. Our kids are going hungry. How long do you want us to continue not feeding our children? And that's the argument.
Yeah, and like I
And
said, the only
politicians are like,
people.
I don't know. I'm a failed lawyer. I don't know.
Well,
Like
yeah, but
that's
there's
frustrating.
still a lot of people, even in if you look through the Twitter tech community, anybody who's got a job comfortably sitting at home doing stuff agrees with that too. Like, oh, just stay at home and don't kill anyone.
Yeah, until they lose
Right?
their cushy job.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that all the people who have got the ability to survive this easily, like my not. I mean, I've got the ability to hold out for a while. Um, like we're just fine.
Do you?
And
Because I know that there's probably 200 other developers that are hungrier, regardless of what they were 2 months ago. They probably are more motivated, more hungry to take my job, right? And I'm not making the money that I would like to make, right? I'll
yeah.
humble myself. So like it's an employer's market right now, and people are. I would argue people are standing in line for your job right now, and they're probably more likely like they're probably not competent to do your job, but they want it really really bad. So like I don't view the job that I have, and the job that I have is in government, and it is focused on healthcare. But as long as there's other people that have a reason to say that they could do my job better, yeah, man, I'm putting in a little bit more hours. I'm a little bit more motivated at the daily status meetings, voluntarily doing demos to try to prove my worth.
No, I mean what I meant was I have the financial runway to survive for
Yeah,
a good probably a year if I button down and
you paid your
stuff.
taxes already, or your W-2?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, my employer paid my taxes and then I got some of it back. So
I write checks.
yeah,
And I think they're pushing the tax deadline back again. I think they're considering October. They're going to keep pushing. Either they're going to keep pushing it back, or the IRS are going to be some major enforcers. They're going to start kicking in people's doors, and a lot of them.
people can't pay rent. They can't. No, most people's taxes are already paid. You know, it's just the people that
Not small
like you,
business.
yeah, or small businesses. Yeah,
Yeah. Electricians, plumbers, shopkeepers. I mean that's a significant part of the economy.
sounds like a dystopian future where the IRS becomes a militant wing of the government. They like have tanks that they roll down the streets with,
Well,
APGs.
I feel like
It's
I feel
got
like the
IRS
IRS.
on the side.
Well, I
But
feel like the IRS is just going to use.
you're safe. You're hidden in Canada.
I feel like the IRS is just going to use ICE as one of their enforcers to start kicking in doors, especially in Miami. But I don't know. It's easy to talk about doom and gloom because I mean I'm on lockdown. What else can I do? I get weird looks when I have the audacity to say that I want to work out outside.
You just need to buy like a small plot of land in like a rural area, and then have yourself like so if this ever happens again, you've got your little bug out spot where
or
you
get
have your gym.
or get a boat and just sail out in the middle of the lake or off the coast of the ocean and just chill.
or just
I wonder how many people are doing that. I wonder how many
find an
people.
underground gym,
I wonder
like a
how many
fight
people
club.
with their yachts are just posted up, just away, fishing and barbecuing on their yacht. I
Yep,
would do that,
plenty. If I had it.
and then they get overran by Somali pirates.
Off the coast of the U.S. No, maybe if they maybe if they
No,
travel down to Somali.
there's a lot of Somalis in Minnesota.
Yeah,
Y'all got lakes up there,
tons of
right?
them.
Y'all don't have a Great Lake. Do y'all have a Great Lake?
We're yeah. I mean, we touch Superior,
Okay.
so we've
Yeah,
got
so
Duluth,
Somali
but
pirates in Lake Superior overrunning your yachts.
I wonder if there have been pirates in Lake Superior. I'd have to look. It's a huge lake. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's massive.
Um, Now I was raised on Lake Erie, which I think every Great Lake is disgusting.
Superior School. It's huge. It's got lots of fish. We went and did a one of these chartered fishing things up there one day. My parents were they put you on a boat and then they set up a bunch of lines and then they troll and then you the line will go up and you grab the pole and you pull in like a pretty big sized salmon or trout and then you get to shore. They got them up, fillet them for you, and you go on your merry way.
I'm
Pretty
allergic to
cool.
fish. I just wish that they would dig a tunnel under Lake Erie so that people can travel back and forth from Cleveland to Detroit. Because
It'd
it's
be
like
easier to
you
build a bridge.
literally a bridge over
Yeah. Oh,
the
maybe I
lake.
don't know.
That's a long bridge. Um, would it be
Like the
easier?
Mackinac Bridge. I don't know.
I mean, that bridge is going to go for like 100 miles probably. It's a long bridge. I thought the longest bridge in the world, I thought was like 20 miles.
I don't. I don't. I mean, I'm assuming it's pretty deep though, so you can't. I'm guessing you wouldn't be able to.
I think it's 90 miles between Detroit and Cleveland, but it's like a 3 hour drive because you literally have to drive around the lake to get
Well,
to.
maybe they could put a bridge from Catawba Island to Put in Bay to Midmass to Isle George to Pelee, and then to whatever this other little thing is over here.
You're talking about like the Midwest Keys, kind of
I
like the
don't know.
Florida Keys,
There's just some islands off in the middle of
the Lake Erie
Lake
Keys.
Erie. Yeah. So that would probably shorten the overall distance. And if there's islands, there's probably not as deep between them. Maybe I don't know.
Those islands aren't that big.
Oh, but that's the Canadian border. Never mind. You'd go into Canada then. Oof. Yeah. I keep forgetting that Detroit's a border town.
Detroit should be demoted.
I when I found that out, I was just flabbergasted for some reason because I never thought of it being like a border town. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. There's no good way to connect the two. Just fly across it or
Well,
take a boat.
They found a good way to connect all the
England and
different
France.
keys
Oh, they
in
did.
southern Florida.
Hmm.
Like they found a good way to connect Key West to Florida, and Key West is out there.
Yeah, it's a long bridge, right?
Well, it's a series of long bridges, but yeah,
Yeah, just do that, but in the lake. Or we
you
just need boat cars now. Yeah.
you never made that drive.
No, I haven't been to that part of Florida.
I recommend it, man. They got this 7 mile bridge. And I just take off, man. I do like 130 miles an hour for like a couple minutes. Like, yeah, I enjoy the drive more than I enjoy actually being in Key West. Like, it's just very peaceful. Like, you're just on a series of long bridges, and you're surrounded by ocean. Like, you feel like you're in a movie, like just driving. So. Anyway,
I didn't realize there's these little islands off to the oh no, these are the Bahamas stuff. And my geography's all messed up.
yeah, I was in the Bahamas last year. Havana's down here. Havana's nice. Too bad not allowed to go there anymore.
I wonder who owns this little island off in the middle of the Atlantic. I'm just looking at the map, thinking
You
like,
hear you hear about the failed I don't even know what you want to call it. It wasn't really an invasion, but supposedly some American mercenaries got caught trying to go into Venezuela to overthrow their regime. It didn't
no,
really make big news. Yeah, I need to
man,
start.
the Pope could die right now and nobody would care.
Oh,
Pope could get assassinated by like I don't know Keanu Reeves, and that would be like a half day news compared to this Corona stuff.
it amazes me how people. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. All right. Well, it's almost 8:30. I'm tapping out. I forgot today was Friday, man. My alarm went off for this mastermind. I'm like, oh crap!
Yeah, I know it's
I thought today was Thursday.
hard to keep track of days.
I don't pay attention to days anymore.
So it's the simplest F sharp program somebody should start writing.
Hello world.
No, dude, Hello World's stupid.
um, you could
It was
you could go to Dakata's website and they got some interesting katas. One that so you said simplest. So I would say maybe a bank account of debits and credits.
boring, man. I should do poker.
I don't think that would be simple. You know what I don't think is achievable using
I've seen
functional
poker.
programming is
Mm,
bowling. I don't think you can write a bowling game using functional programming techniques.
you could write a scoring for functional though. It's all just one big function.
But you're relying on past state of the previous bowl, and then you're manipulating uh, the end of the bowl that you just did. I tried doing it. I failed. And if you Google uh, bowling F sharp or bowling Haskell, you'll see a lot of people that struggled.
Well, I mean, but don't you just think of them as frames? So
Yeah, but you're modifying the short answer is I had to like Wikipedia scoring bowling, and this was like probably 3 or 4 years ago, probably 4 years ago. Yeah, they're all frames, but then you go back to a past frame that you already scored and you modify it based on the recent score that you gave to your current frame. Like there's a lot of going back and forth depending on how many pins you knock down. Do you bowl?
yeah, no, I mean, but the thing is it's just like you pass in what your new thing is, and yeah, you compute a new array with or a new scorecard with those values filled in.
For both your current frame and then at times your past frame.
Sure, why not? You fill in
Okay,
your current frame.
functional programming is stateless, so it requires a lot more thought to. I mean, so is it possible? Yes, anything is possible. At the time, 4 years ago, I failed to successfully complete the bowling kata.
You just, but I mean, don't you just construct a new version of the thing and just put in the new values based
Okay,
on what your computations are?
then that could be your kata
Okay, there we go.
because I failed miserably.
Yeah. Or I guess you could maybe you could treat all of the frames actually as just functions, and that reference or are derived from their future things. So if there is a value or not, combined with the value you have, really, I mean, you could treat us. Couldn't you? Couldn't you treat a spare as a as a like a partially applied function. You've got the value plus like a maybe of an x1, and when it fills in, you get an actual value. Otherwise, you compute a slash.
I don't know. But the issue that I ran into is updating the previous frame based on, I don't know if it was the spare that dictates if you need to update the frame before with the
Spares and
newer score.
strikes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was the spare that was getting me in trouble, where I now had to modify the previous frame, and
Yeah,
so
because it could go all the way to the like if you did a perfect game, you've got 10 frames of x's that you have to square back to the one, the first frame.
so
So
object oriented, it's like piece of cake. You just modify that, right? But in functional, it's like no, you need to do potentially a copy, or you need to do some funky fold operation. It wasn't intuitive for me, but it seems like it's easy for you.
well, no,
So
I'm thinking about it, but yeah, I don't know. I'll try that now because now I get interested when people say like I can't do something or like it's hard or something. Then I'm like, oh, well, this is probably worth time then. Unlike bank account,
you realize
that's a solved problem.
you said simplest program to write,
Yeah,
and now you just went to one of the hardest,
yeah. I don't care. I'm gonna do it.
or should I say complicated?
It'll be super not complicated.
Well, I'm available on tap whenever you have questions about why your compiler is screaming at you.
Yeah, I just need to know data structures. What do you use records for that?
Yeah, records, and well, I rarely use tuples, with the exception of I'll probably write a blog on it maybe today, with the exception of yesterday. I struggled to figure out how to implement a is dirty flag for a page. So you modify a page, and then that save button becomes enabled, and so that was the plan, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to accommodate that without writing hella code, either in the code behind or on the actual view model. I mean, I did it, and I was happy with my implementation because it wasn't that many lines of code. Um, but it was a thought exercise because it just wasn't intuitive to me how to do it. And I know I've done it before, but I just never done it before in F sharp. Short story is I maintain a list of tuples of the the default values for each property, and then every time a property would change, I would call a refresh function that would compare the default values of each property to um, whatever current value a property had, and then I would call a list.forAll that checks to see if any of those are list.forAll or list.exists. I think it was exists. List.exists for every entry in the list, and then if that was if there was a true flag on any of the items within that list, then it would set the is dirty flag and it would enable the button.
Hmm.
I'm done talking. That's it. I'll send you a screenshot if you really care. What you got planned for the weekend?
I think my nephew is coming over. It's his birthday one day. I don't know, sometime around now. And I don't know. I'll have to entertain him. Otherwise, I don't really have much planned. Probably get my pop up camper figured out. We had the mice in it again, so now
Finish
we're
your table?
cleaning it out. Hmm?
Did you finish your table? Why is this not working?
No,
Okay.
no.
Why can I not find this? I just want to send you a screenshot because I know you really care about it. Um, so, how seriously are you taking the bowling kata? Why is this not showing up?
I don't know. Sorry. I.
I can't find it anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean it seems like it'd be kind of a fun thing to do. I said I think if you made every frame a function as a series of functions or something like that, and then computed the whole thing to produce the actual final, output. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look at it.
All right. Well, it's been real. And is this going to let me paste it in here at all?
You
Here's a.
can use the private chat. Or maybe not. If it's a screenshot, send it on Twitter.
I'll do that. 'Cause I know you're really interested in it. I know you're dying to see it. There you go. There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'm out.
All
So
right.
catch up.
Can create.
Why does that look different from what I had before? I'm missing something. Hold up. I'm not going to dig into it. I know I use a tuple somewhere in here. Whatever. All right. I'm leaving. I'm tapping out.
It's kind of neat. So what is the? Sorry, I mean I'm reading this as kind of like an equal or like an assignment, but the backwards arrow,
Yeah.
less than minus. What's that operator?
It's an assignment operator.
Okay, so it is. You just don't use equal, or why do you use that one in this particular?
Equal is for initializing an immutable, or equals for initializing a value. That less than dash sign is for overriding that value.
Okay, so you use that when you're mutating.
When you have you need to declare a value as immutable in order to use that construct.
Okay, so if you have a mutable type, then you use the assignment. It's kind of
Yep.
neat.
I mean, you literally say let mutable my variable equal whatever equals false, right? That's where you use the equal sign, and then when you want to update that, you'll say my value, and then that little arrow going into it, and then whatever new value you want to push into it.
Do they use the forward version of that, the dash arrow, to be kind of like the fat arrow in C sharp for a
Yes,
lambda?
yes.
And then the less than, uh, I know that's like a bind or something like that, but um, when you use the less than pipe,
That
you take the results because you have your string is null or empty that
nope,
responds to a
nope,
variable.
nope, nope, nope. It's you can use that. You can use that to replace or to substitute using parentheses. So imagine that saying not, and then within parentheses system.string.is null or empty. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I can remove the left parenthesis and the right parenthesis and just use that instead. And then you would probably say, well, what do you need parentheses for at all? And the answer is because I'm interrupting with a C sharp method that has dangling parentheses at the end of it. And for whatever reason, the compiler doesn't really understand that. So you have to tell the compiler that this is not a curried function or something like that, and put parentheses on it for it to say this is the final value.
Hmm. So you said you could put well, so that operator though, the less than pipe, the idea is it evaluates the is null or empty first, and then pipes the result into the not function.
Uh, yes. So yeah, you were right earlier. I didn't think of it to that point. Usually, I just use that less than pipe sign just to remove parentheses.
Yeah, so because other if you add the parentheses, it would evaluate the contents and or whatever, but you would need it to just know that the order, I suppose, of like why can't you just write not space string null or empty?
Because it's not going to compile. Um, so if I do this, then if I were to share my screen, you would see a red squiggly, and it would say successive arguments should be separated by spaces or tupled, and arguments involving function or method applications should be parenthesized. So you get a compiler error.
Hmm. Thought you didn't have to use parentheses for function calls.
System.string is a class, and it's not using functions, it's using a method. So when you're interrupting with
But
um,
not as a method though, right? Or a function rather.
not as a function,
Yeah, which takes a boolean and then does a not operation on it, right? But I'm
yes.
just wondering why does so like how I would read this if I had that would be it evaluates system string as null or empty to a boolean value, and then not would operate on that as its parameter, right? But maybe I just don't understand the reason why F sharps. Like I know sometimes you don't have to, like if you have a function call, you can just list the function name space the actual inputs to the function. Um, but maybe you can't do that if you're composing.
I'm not sure behind the scenes what the actual reason is. I just learned from experience that when you have a method being invoked within a function, you need to wrap that method, especially you need to wrap that method call with parentheses.
Okay,
Else, your compiler is going to scream at you because it doesn't know how to interpret that syntax.
gotcha. Fun stuff.
Yeah. So
Has anybody written just a pure functional like wrapper around those things? So you could just do like stir is null or empty or something like that. Just like
um, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do. Uh,
I'm just surprised there isn't like a bunch of pure functional wrappers around the .NET live
well,
or the .NET stuff.
oh,
Like
.NET is object oriented, right? So that's not going to be included in their APIs that they provide. That's,
yeah, yeah. But I
that's
mean,
not
for the
going to be.
things that are purely like that string is null or empty is purely functional, right?
Well, string is a class, so it doesn't rely on functions. That those methods are utilities that dangle off of that string class.
Yeah, there's static functions, pure functions. There's no side effects. There's no. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. You raise a good point. Yes, IDK.
So the and then the other thing here, the x quantity, you're piping that into a string, which is a that's a two string, right? Taking
Yeah,
the int value.
yeah.
Hmm.
It looks a little bit cleaner. I could do both, right? I could literally dangle a dot two string onto quantity, and it'll do the same thing.
But you couldn't do string space x dot quantity.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So there you wouldn't need parentheses though, because you're just constructing. But you want to just call out the quantity as the most important thing here in strings, just to
I wanted to be consistent with how everything within all those items within those brackets they all have the prefix x dot, and I just want to be consistent with that.
Yeah. Piping is cool, man. I love that binding operator or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I didn't continue learning Scala because they didn't have it, and it might be easy to just create a custom operator to do it, but it was just a turnoff for me. If I don't have my pipe operators, and it's like, this doesn't feel functional. I just want to literally like connect functions one to the other to the other to the other and get my result, and that's it. I'm in love with transforming data visually versus
Flow.
imperatively. So
Yeah, I probably like it too. I love Link. I like thinking about things in terms of large collections and how to mutate collections to get what I want versus doing the for each thing.
yeah, so I mean, my style changed a lot when I started writing F sharp because now when I look at a series of when I look at an operation that's necessary, and usually an operation relies on uh, a number of or a set of items in order for it to return a result. It's now natural for me to create lists of functions where like in C sharp I would never do that. I would have a list of objects and I would run them through a function, but I use list of like functions and I iterate through that list like in a lot of my code. And it's just weird how my at first my mind fought that technique or that paradigm, and now it just comes natural to me.
Hmm.
Of course, the example you're looking at right now is just a list of data. It's not a list of functions.
Yeah.
But for like if I were to do validation, I would have a more likely a list of functions that a list of validate functions, and I would run that through a list dot iter or a list dot map, and then I would take that result and do whatever with it.
Cool.
So, all right, well, it's been real.
Yep.
See
Talk
ya.
to you next week.
All right, thanks. Bye.